Now, the situation with Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes has gotten worse. It all stems from the fact that Nick Fuentes came to Candace Owens' house and did a podcast, but somehow during that podcast, something happened, right? And it was okay once the podcast was going on. Once the podcast was uploaded, then there became an inherent beef between the both of them.
It's funny because I didn't really consider the interview to be cantankerous. I think his reaction to the interview made the internet think that it was going to be cantankerous. He was very friendly when he was here at my house. We told him we were going to cut a controversial trailer. He laughed. Everything was fine. And then 10 days later, he completely flipped when we released it.
Now, as you hear, Candace Owens said it has something to do with the trailer, and Nick Fuentes started just going off on her. Now, to be fair, I do think that something is wrong with Nick Fuentes. He typically falls out with people. This is not uncommon of his behavior. But the same might be able to be said with Candace Owens. I mean, she's no saint, but that's what happens when you interview a person who is a white supremacist on your platform. I mean, go figure, right? He doesn't like black people and you happen to be black. So there you go. Anyways, after that, Candace Owens allegedly threatened to expose Nick Fuentes. And once she did that, he did this.
And she wants to call me out? That's what she texted me. She goes, "I'm calling you out." And my response to that is, you have no right to call me out. And maybe it's time for you as a woman to sit down and shut up.
He also said this.
Because you're a black woman, because you are a semi-articulate black woman, you're like Obama. She don't talk with that Negro dialect. She was a black woman who did the conservative grift, and she rode that tokenism doing Blexit for 10 years, making millions of dollars, and then married into a wealthy family, and then discovered there's something going on with Israel after only everybody started to notice. Now you want to call me out, the OG?
So there he's calling her basically a DEI hire for the right, which in itself is very, very bad. But I'll continue. Fast forward! But it continued to get worse because now Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes started to differ also about Israel. And again, both of them are against Israel. Once Charlie Kirk passed away, it's known that Candace Owens basically indirectly started to blame Israel for his downfall, right? And even people like Nick Fuentes, he's completely against Israel and Jews, just could not believe that, okay? And he was saying that she was just using her audience to watch her YouTube videos, not dropping any real receipts. And
for literally the past week, uninterrupted, nonstop, she has been pushing this narrative on her show that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. That Netanyahu killed Charlie Kirk because he refused to bribe and was turning against them, and the donors tried to intervene, and he wouldn't listen. He was going to take the youth with him, so they shot him in the throat symbolically to show they were silencing his voice. That's from her show.
Then all of a sudden, he started literally mocking her as a black person.
Yeah, if she apologized, I would forgive her, and I would eat ribs with her, absolutely. Lay on the cornbread, bring it on. Cornbread, collard greens, ribs, absolutely. Absolutely. I would forgive her and I would break cornbread with her 100%. The ribs are on me. I would absolutely do it. And I'd pay for them. I wouldn't let her use her EBT card. I would say, Candace, you save that EBT for your kids. You save it for your children.
And then it got worse.
Candace Owens is going back to the ghetto. She's going back to hanging out outside the corner store, outside the Kono store. I don't know what accent that is. She's hanging out at the corner store with Unc on the lawn chair. You hate to see it. What you mean you don't take food stamps no more? I'm trying to buy food for my kids. What you mean you don't take EBT no more? What you mean you don't take food stamps no more? What you mean I can't get no food stamp?
And so what you started to see is Nick Fuentes making fun of Candace Owens and referring to her as a ghetto black. Now, I want to talk about this because of one thing Candace Owens has never done. She's never presented herself to be urban. She's from Connecticut. I think that she's half Black American, half Caribbean, something like that. She's never expressed any kind of ties to ghetto Black America. I mean, the way that she talks is basically, if you would close your eyes, you may not even know that she's Black. But now the play that he's trying to run, because he disagrees with her, is that basically she's a hood chick. She to go back to the porch for Unc. She to go and get some barbecue. And so, this is kind of what I see with a lot of these so-called Black conservatives, is once they come out and they have a disagreement with somebody like Nick Fuentes, the reality is that that person or group of people or their followers will immediately go back to racial constructs. All right. Even if, Candace Owens, she's trying to keep this civil as possible, as much as possible. But Nick Fuentes is not allowing that. He's starting to play dirty. And in this way, you're starting to see that the moment that anybody starts to do that, this is where they take it. This is the same thing that Brandon Tatum faced. Okay. Brandon Tatum basically was complaining about the fact that Nick Fuentes and his followers, were basically calling him the N-word. All right. I don't even want to play a clip of that because I've played too many, but you can just imagine that it happened. And so my idea is, what's the point? Like, you always talk bad about Black America. Okay. And then you want to go over here and be over here with the whites and all of that. The moment they disagree with you, they start calling you, talk about you're gonna have food stamps, you're gonna be over there with Unc. They start mocking African American or Black American dialect, and you think that you're on the winning team? What's the point? And that's what I try to prove to you. It happens every single time. The guys that experience the most racism over there in the Black conservative groups are these Blacks. And they always talk about, no, we shouldn't leave race out of it. White people are good. You got Brandon Tatum over there. He running around doing the best he can to defend Charlie Kirk at every given chance. You have a certain number of those whites that always bring up race. And the reason why those Black conservatives can do so well talking about the Black community, because those whites are racist. They wouldn't have an audience if there were not racist whites. Brandon Tatum couldn't be to where he's at. Candace Owens couldn't be to where he's at, okay? Because those whites are not in fear of any danger from Blacks. That's the God's honest truth. Majority of them. The majority of them have a larger time being affected by other whites. Most whites live around other whites. Most whites don't live around Blacks. So for you to make a living, you got to beat up on the Blacks. But now the danger is people get tired of you talking about Blacks every day. So now you're seeing these Black conservatives jump into realms in which they shouldn't really be in over there, which is geopolitics. So now you see these guys over there, Israel did this and Israel did that and all of these other things. And that's a dangerous game you're playing. So once you start playing that dangerous ass game, it just goes down bad from there. And so now this is the issue that happened, okay? And so once again, even if you agree with Nick Fuentes, he could turn around and say, oh, well, you stole that idea from me. You was pro-Israel first. I was the first person that was against Israel. Now you're stealing my stuff. All right, now you go with that. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson back at it again. Another episode of The Celebrity Junk. Which is your for all you do, skirt a bell. We're out.